Okay, everybody, we're back. Brand new Cabral HouseCall, our second house call of the weekend. We got to answer some great questions yesterday. Basically, a big rant on TRT that I went on yesterday's show. That was episode 3732. We talked about unmodified potato starch, 1 teaspoon before bed, and if it's a good idea or not. What else did we talk about? We talked about postmenopausal women and melatonin-based use. We talked about autoimmune disorders and biologic drugs and how to fix the gut even if you're on them. And then we talked about GLP-1s and supplements in general. Can you take them out of their capsule or do they need to be taken as a capsule? All right, so let's dive into today's show. Just opened up the amazing document that my team puts together. Looks like we've got another 5 questions to dive into today. Let's get started. All right, if you want to follow along, stephencabral.com/3733. That's where the questions are. Eve says, God bless you for all you do. Same to you, Eve. Eve says, I had a routine mammogram in early 2025. I followed by a bilateral breast ultrasound. They recommended 6-month monitoring due to multiple cysts or masses. I have very dense breasts. I was advised to continue to monitor with ultrasounds every 6 months. At my March 2026 follow-up, they recommended a biopsy because one mass at the 9 o'clock position increased from 1 centimeter to 1.5 centimeters. For context, I had a benign biopsy in 2024 in the same breast, 10 o'clock, and regret doing it out of fear. I feel that poking and probing can be harmful. I'm worried about unnecessary procedures, but don't want to ignore anything serious. Would short-term monitoring, repeat ultrasound in 3 months be reasonable? The tech seem inexperienced. Could measurement error be possible? Okay, so let me understand this fully. So you had a March follow-up, and I'm assuming it was an ultrasound. Okay, let's look back. A mammogram or an MRI is going to be measured by a more seasoned professional. Oftentimes, ultrasounds are done by technicians, no hate at all, some more experienced than others. I'll give you an example. When I went down to Hope for Cancer, their ultrasound technician, been doing it 15 years, was, by the way, the best I've ever seen. The best I've ever seen, like phenomenal. So again, it's always like you can have one practitioner read your labs, you can have another practitioner read your labs. They read them differently because of experience and know-how, knowledge, etc. All right, so get a second opinion. A growth of 0.5 centimeters in 12 months is fast. So that would be one to say, let's look at this again. And then, maybe have a better test done like an MRI. An MRI is going to be far more conclusive. And I've done a whole show on what to do instead of mammograms. And one of those was an MRI. And the reason is an MRI is good for dense breast tissue as well. So I can't give medical advice. I can't give treatment plans, medical treatment, can't give medical cures, medical diagnosis. But if this was my wife, I would say, let's do an MRI, which I have her do, and then you'll be able to get a better discernment of the size and position of these cysts, masses, however you want to call them. All right? That's my recommendation, Eve. So, okay, next question's from Eve. Eve says, hi, it's me again. I wrote in yesterday, and after I spoke to my PCP about my hesitation on getting a breast biopsy, she was supportive and said, why don't we do an MRI instead to be certain of poking and probing before knowing what it really is? Well, there we go, Eve. Exactly, an MRI. The only thing is that it would have to be done with contrast. What do you think? Less invasive, more real answers, but the contrast makes me anxious. Can I do a detox if I opt out for the MRI versus the brain or versus the breast biopsy? Thank you, doc. Okay, happy to answer this. Okay, Eve, so let's get down to it. So again, I'm not going against your doctor's advice. A contrast MRI is going to show you the edges better and if it's potentially cancerous. So not disagreeing with that. You can do a regular MRI and still see the mass and still see the diameter. So just want to state that. Okay. If you do the MRI with contrast to get the best possible look, the dye is typically gadolinium. And it is a dye that usually is removed from your system within about 48 to 72 hours. It is contraindicated, again, not medical advice, for individuals with kidney-based issues. However, we have seen it sometimes stored in the body for much longer. That is why anytime my clients do a MRI with contrast, if they need to, because I work with a lot of cancer support clients, then we do a detox following it, and we're using infrared sauna for at least a week or two after. All right. So yeah, that's what we do. Detox, just like you talked about, an infrared sauna. All right. And then you know for sure. And that's the nice thing about it, because biopsies you have to be careful with. I know sometimes they're necessary, but when you start to disrupt a mass and it is cancerous, those cancer cells could spread. And we have to be careful of that, right? So when necessary, we do it. If it is cancerous, then better to have the whole mass removed rather than just biopsying it. Typically, again, I'm only giving you the advice I tell myself and I would give my wife. All right. Anonymous is up next. Anonymous says, hi, can you help provide advice on how to help with orange hands, elbows, and feet? I've tested extremely high for beta carotene. I was just going to say, is it beta carotene or liver issues? I'm not sure, as I wasn't eating bushels of carrots, just trying to get diversity of plants each week, but guess I steered towards vegetables with higher concentration, squash, dark leafy greens, broccoli, etc. I practically eliminated all sources, but still seems not to improve much. Any advice would be helpful, as it's embarrassing things. Okay, so whenever I hear about orange or yellow, I'm thinking just like you, beta carotene, which is vitamin A. We'll talk about sources in just a moment, and or liver-based issues. Okay, so first thing we do, again, no medical advice, 21-day functional medicine detox, the one at stephencabral.com/detox. Just that's what we use in our practice. I'm just giving you what we do in our practice. All right. Second, so that's going to help with the liver. Second, we're going to, and you can always run your blood work and look at AST and ALT, which are liver enzymes. Okay. Then we're going to look at food. Is it high in beta carotene? We can go a little bit less. Then we're going to look at supplements. Are you taking 25,000 IUs of beta carotene every day, vitamin A? Because a lot of doctors, functional medicine doctors, have you on really high dosages, some 100,000 IUs of vitamin A. We don't recommend that. 5,000, 10,000 a day, good, of beta carotene, not of retinol palmate, which is the synthetic form, because your body can process the beta carotene. But with you, we're reducing that, right? So 5,000 a day, that's it, maximum from your supplements. Okay. Then we're reducing the foods that are high in beta carotene only for about maybe 6 to 12 weeks. The next part, we're looking at medications you might be on that make you more susceptible to vitamin A, or it might be a vitamin A type medication, such as an Accutane, right? So look at all of those, understand it, ask your doctor, and then I think you'll be able to find the source. All right, Anonymous? Hopefully that was helpful. All right, we've got either the same Anonymous or a different Anonymous, but they ask, hi, what are your thoughts on using clean sources of nicotine to treat things like long COVID, chronic fatigue, brain fog, etc.? Thanks. Okay, so I've got a YouTube video coming out on this. If you don't tune into my YouTube channel, it's just Stephen Cabral on YouTube. So youtube.com/@ my name, Stephen Cabral, Stephen with a PH. There are 2 videos a week, usually 2, sometimes just 1, of exclusive videos teaching there about 10 minutes long. That's it. They're topics that I don't get to teach anywhere else, and they need a whiteboard typically to teach. So that's why I do them there. Check them out. Again, it's all free. There's no cost. And so I do one of these on the pros and cons of nicotine. It is important to understand. So first of all, we can't use the word treat. So we're not giving medical treatments. Nicotine is a supplement / stimulant. Make no mistakes about it. The way that it works is allowing for acetylcholine in the brain, an improvement in excitatory neurotransmitters such as dopamine and norepinephrine. It is stimulating to the nervous system. We have to be careful with that. It can lead to burnout, higher pushing of the HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, and can lead to anxiety, irritability, burnout, and you need to use more and more nicotine typically over time to get the same result. When you come off of that, you can have an enormous crash, kind of like coming off hormone replacement therapy. Be careful with it. Nicotine is not needed by the body. There is no foundational approach for nicotine. Now, can nicotine potentially be helpful for viral-based issues? The answer is maybe. We need to see that studied in humans to a greater degree. We have test tubes, petri dishes that show when nicotine comes in contact with this virus, it kills it. But sure, so do a lot of other herbs, because these herbs, when it touches a virus, can be toxic, but that's not how it works in the body. So I keep my mind open to it. I never recommend nicotine in my practice, but I'm also not against nicotine. I certainly don't recommend it on a daily basis because I know what it does to the nervous system and I know what it does long term. Short term, probably no big deal. Every once in a while, probably no big deal. So just want to state that. Again, I always like to be unbiased. If it was the thing, I would use it in my practice. I have no problem with it. I've recommended cannabis in certain situations. I recommend CBD in certain situations, right? But no, so I don't recommend it for chronic fatigue because all it's doing is stimulating. It is not working on the underlying root cause. It does nothing to fix the adrenals, the nervous system, the HPA axis, etc. So I know that's an unpopular statement. I get it. But again, the reason why I don't have 10 million followers is because I say unpopular things. That's the truth. But I'm okay with that. At the end of the day, I have two daughters, 11 and 13 years old. I want them, when they grow up, to understand that I did what I did because I believed it to be the truth and the unbiased truth, and I want that to live on. After I'm gone, there will be maybe 10,000 podcasts. It will all be searchable. It will be a database on what I've seen. By then, we'll have at least 500,000 to 1 million labs and probably 20 million, well, no, it'll be more than that, somewhere around 50 million biomarkers of data. We run one of the largest functional medicine practices in the world. And I only say that because I let you know what really works in the real world. And I always say, work with the practitioner that you feel comfortable working with. It doesn't need to be with us. I always say that, and I mean that. Okay, let's move on. One more question today. It's from Nikita. Nikita says, hi, Dr. Cabral. After 4 years of heavy hair loss, I finally corrected my iron deficiency anemia. Through prescription iron pills, it's the only thing that worked. 6 months later, my hair loss has finally slowed down a lot. However, I'm not noticing any type of regrowth. I'd love to get some of my density back after those 4 years of bad hair loss. I wanted to know your opinion on starting Minoxidil for a temporary period of time just to wake up the hair follicles. I've never taken it before because I don't want to commit to it forever, but do you think it could work for this case? And then maybe I can stop it and the hair won't fall out again because now I have enough hemoglobin. Would appreciate your advice on my theory. Thank you. Okay. So Nikita, I'm assuming you're a female, but I never assume. I don't know. It is different with male hair loss, which is typically androgenic, versus female hair loss. Yours very likely could be from this. If you use Minoxidil, especially with the microneedling that I've spoken about in the home before, at home, you can do it right at home. You don't have to go to a practitioner to do it, but you can. Typically once a week or every other week. Check out my podcast on that. I tell you exactly how to do it. I tell you exactly what the research is. You would literally put the Minoxidil on your hair and then you would microneedle it right into your scalp. You can use a company like Happy Head that has, what do they have? Minoxidil. They'll compound a formula for you, an anti-inflammatory if needed on the scalp. And then they will sometimes do finasteride, but you don't need that as a female, which is a DHT blocker. So, and then yes, if you regrow your hair, especially as a female, and it's not androgenic hair loss, you should be able to keep it. That's the truth. And as a female, as long as you can wake back up the dormant hair follicles, then the hair can grow back. That's the truth. Check out my full hair loss page. Again, all the information is always free. Go to stevencabral.com/hair-loss. It's for men and women. It gives you every underlying root cause of hair loss. And then it gives you all the things that really work to regrow your hair. And it's an unbiased perspective, prescription-based and natural based. All right? Because there are things like rosemary oil, bergamot oil that really do work, castor oil that really do work, right? So you can use them in conjunction to other treatments as well. Hair red light. So again, it's all there. Check it out, stephencabral.com/hair-loss. Hopefully you're having an amazing weekend if you're tuning into this as it comes out each and every weekend. And I'll be back tomorrow with a new week of the Cabral Concept. Have an amazing rest of your weekend. I'll talk with you tomorrow. Take care.